Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Robert Schmid. I am Deloitte's Chief IoT Technologist with a deep passion for all things digital. This week on Coffee with Mr.IoT, my co-host and I are talking to my co-host, Heather. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Good morning. I'm happy to be the interviewee this week, so I don't have to think of anything, interesting or witty to ask our guests. You could do all the work.
Okay, I didn't know this was work. I always thought this was So Heather, you actually dressed appropriately for today.
Can you see?
T-shirt, what's the thought on that?
On why I wore this shirt?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about F8 today, which I was lucky enough to attend a few weeks ago. So I thought I would go ahead and rep it, with my, plus it's a very comfy t-shirt. It's perfect for a Friday.
Heather, you work at Facebook. You work with Facebook. They are a client, but you also got invited to their developer conference called F8. Why F8 and what is F8?
So F8 is officially the developer conference for Facebook, but over the years, it's, the identity of F8 has seems to have shifted with Facebook's own identity. So I think there were 4,000 or 5,000 people there this year. And if I remember, they gave a stat that said something like when they started this 8 or 9 years ago, there were like 50 people or 80 people in the room. So it's gone from being, not only a larger group of developers that are coming to be able to kind of enhance their ability to develop on the platform, but the broader ecosystem is also coming to F8. People like me, who I'm not a developer, but I'm quite interested in what Facebook is talking about, the impact it will have on the market, what the other ecosystem players are kind of thinking about. So, it's become their flagship conference, even though it still is pegged as, for developers, because they also have many other conferences throughout the year for other pieces of their ecosystem specifically, but this is like the flagship one.
Why 8? F8.
Oh, shoot, I should probably know the answer to that. Well, they have Building 8 too, which is where all their most advanced technologies are being researched. So there's probably something to do with the number 8 and like being on the edge of science. You should know that.
I didn't, I just thought you'd know. So Heather, for the people that just look at Facebook as a social place where you post your daily updates and your food pictures and your family pictures, what do developers do on Facebook? You call it the platform, and it was just really interesting. I'm curious what that is.
I know. So do people really still think of Facebook as a place to take pictures of their food? I know that you're right, but anyone who spends even a minute thinking about Facebook or reading about Facebook or paying attention to Facebook sees that, this is one of the top technology companies in the world that are on the edge of everything that will define our future. And, so Facebook sees itself as a technology company, not a social media player. And so developers are doing all sorts of things on the platform. I mean, we heard a ton about VR at F8 this year, and they've really advanced their kind of play in that space since F8 last year. Facebook has its toe in the telecommunications business. As you can tell, they have the telco infrastructure project that they sort of spearheaded to have a look at innovation up and down the hardware stack of telecom. Tons with camera. Now this year at FA, the big kind of headline was the camera as the platform, and so tons of work around 360-degree camera capabilities and what that could mean to how we collaborate, how we share, how we interact. They're entered into the enterprise space with their enterprise collaboration platform, Workplace. So Facebook in the enterprise. Of course, their ads business and everything that means to the market. So Facebook is really playing across the whole spectrum of what it means to be tech today. And that really is being a platform disruptor.
So by the way, I just got a text. So just so we both know, this was F8, next year it's going to be F9 because 8 stood for what was the 8th time. So I just thought it's fun to know that.
Okay. I'm glad you're checking your text while we're talking.
What's that?
I'm glad you're checking your text while we're talking.
Yeah, no, it pops up and says something interested you. Hey, so VR. I saw you had actually a VR avatar now, and there was a lot of talk about VR. Yeah, so I wanted to go, but you didn't invite me. So in any case, VR is a lot of talk also when you talk about IoT, right? Because a lot of the things that you see on sensors, they only come to life when you actually see them in context, what's around you. So we overlay sensors with real objects and maybe on an iPad or on an Oculus or something like that. And so Facebook really came out big this year at F8 with their VR vision. They showed off a whole different things. Just tell us what you saw. I'm just so curious to hear live how it was there to be there. What was the vibe? What was the content? Just share a little bit with us.
Well, I mean, so I'll start with last year at F8. They did a bit of a keynote demo to show off where we were with VR, and that blew me away because just really seeing that close up for the first time for me, what a collaboration experience could look and feel like in VR versus video chat. It was just like, oh, right. It kind of really made it tangible, how disruptive VR as a platform will be. And so this year, we kind of revisited, and they reminded us of what they showed us last year and then showed us where we were now and the progress from a computer vision standpoint that they had made alone which enabled a lot of that VR progress. It was amazing, but the really awesome thing about this year was that they were really pushing on their app, Facebook Spaces, because that's just the really lightest touch way for the average everyday you and me to get into VR. Gamers have been on the Oculus experience for some time, and you have to have a really nice computer, advanced computer.
You have an Oculus?
Yeah, I do. I mean, luckily, I have a 16-year-old heavy-duty gamer son, so he built his own computer, and we were able to use Oculus and Rift and Touch. But at F8 this year, they facilitated a way for you to get in there, make your avatar, which they kind of do for you based on pictures that you feed it, and then you can customize it. So mine isn't perfect yet, but she's starting to look a little better. And then they get you into the Facebook Spaces app, which is just a way for casual collaboration, with other people in VR. And it reminded me of the days back in, when I was in high school, when we had the first email, and you're suddenly in these chat rooms with strangers, and you're like, hi, what are we doing? We're talking to each other, and we're we don't even know each other, and this is so cool. It felt like that to me, where I was interacting with strangers in VR and Spaces, and it was so much fun. It was just a blast. The other thing, sorry to ramble on, but you could tell I got excited about this part. They shared some feedback that they had from one of their experiments as they were developing, which there was a glitch where when people were shaking hands in VR, their hands were getting stuck. And people in real life were blushing. And so it just, that for me, really, really represented, the effect that VR can have on you. And there you are blushing because you're virtually holding hands with a stranger. And I've seen a couple other examples since then, someone showed something about getting a tattoo in VR, makes your heart rate go up. And so anyway, I loved Spaces.
It shows you blushing in VR and it shows your heart rate go up. You can see that if someone else blushes on Spaces?
No. But they were looking at the kind of the effects on the human being by operating in VR. That's next year.
Well, didn't. So, by the way, I just want to correct my fake news. My text feed was wrong.
Yeah.
Not the 8th, or it might be the 8th conference, but that's not what it is. Supposedly, and I'm just going to put a claim on this now, it has to do with Facebook getting 8 hours of time to work on projects. and then they share those 8-hour projects with each other. So that's why it's supposedly.
Is it? Okay.
Let's find out if that's true news rather than fake news, because you know,
okay.
I don't like blamed here on my little coffee with Mr.IoT show you and I having. Maybe I should do better research next time. Any case, so Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, in his keynote, and I saw you were tweeting and posting stuff while you were there. He talked about actually direct connection to get away from keyboard and hand interaction, but direct connection with our brain. Holy smoke. On the one hand, I was like totally fascinated. I'm like, hey, I want to be an alpha tester, do something with me. On the other hand, I was, I wonder what I really want to expose, all that stuff that goes on in my head all day long. How was that? How did that land with people? Tell us what he really said.
Yeah, I mean, that messaging really came across from the keynote on the second day with Her Highness Regina Dugan. She is one of the great women of tech of all time. And so she showed how she talked about this as the sort of goal, and she showed the progress they were making to be able to kind of talk by understand and listen by feeling through your they showed a woman wearing a band on her arm and sort of bypassing speech. And she said something that a quote that was like, speech is the greatest data compressor we've ever known. And I thought that was really profound, so true. And the work that they're doing in that space was just mind-blowing. She did say at one point during the speech was, if we fail, this is gonna really suck. And that's sort of summed up that what you're saying. You know, it's all very cool. Of course, with any technology, we can use it for good, we can use it for evil. And, you know, that if failure here would have profound consequences, but it's still absolutely amazing and undeniable that this is where we're headed.
It's interesting, right? You talked about walking around in spaces and how people have real emotions when they walk around in spaces, and their hands get stuck to each other when they shake hands. Suddenly they're holding hands with a stranger. But you also said it was fun and cute, and you used sort of words that don't typically fit into a work environment. Can you see spaces being something where, you know, you and I travel, I don't know about you, but I travel a lot. Could this be something where I could stop traveling and actually interact with people on spaces in a more real way? Or is it still too game-like?
I mean, so it was being introduced as pretty light touch and just kind of light collaboration, but it is not difficult to stretch your imagination into even the next logical step of what this could mean to enterprise collaboration. And if you pair that with you know, initiatives that they have on workplace, you're like, this could completely change the game of how we interact in an enterprise situation. Absolutely. So, you know, right now Spaces is kind of billed as something fun and social, but by next year, I think we'll see something totally different in VR interaction. Oh, by the way, the other big thing that kind of blew me away on day 2 was the chief scientist of Oculus Research was talking about possibly within the next 5 years, maybe more, we don't know, but wearing clear, fashionable, I won't say fashion forward, but fashion acceptable glasses that will allow for a completely augmented reality experience. And that until we get it into just totally normal looking clear glasses, you know, it's still going to be a bit, you know, off orbit. But once we get to that point, that's going to allow for full augmented immersion in our life, which was, again, it kind of blew me away, because it's like, you can believe absolutely we can get there based on what we're seeing. And then you understand that just changes everything about how we interact in the world.
If you're just joining us now, you're watching Coffee with Mr.IoT. Today, my co-host is also my host, and we're talking about F8, the Facebook Developer Conference, Facebook, and other things. So I'm gonna go total Star Trek on you for a second. You talked about how clear glasses are great. I kind of like, if we implant stuff to read my brain, why not overlay my vision rather than having something in front of my face? You know, that'll be cool, but I'm sure we're further away from that. So In any case, I'm curious. I have a question totally different. So F8, 4,000, 5,000 people. Where is it? What is it like? I always find it so interesting, right? I go to various shows the year, and every year my favorite show is Dreamforce. And there's over 100,000 people, but it's just the vibe that's just so awesome compared to some other tech shows that I don't want to mention. And so what's the vibe at F8? It's got to be just a whole different story. Tell us about it. Where is it? What's going on? What are the people like?
Okay, so I've only been going to F8 for 2 years, so I only have last year to compare it to, but it did grow significantly from last year. Last year we were up at Fort Mason, and it felt very techie. There were a lot of dudes and a lot of developers, and delicious food everywhere, as you would expect.
Where is it?
So this year we were at the San Jose Convention Center. So massive shift in the vibe, because now it became like a conference. It moved from something that felt like this community into something that felt like a conference. And the food was less, everywhere and delicious. It was a little bit more conferencey. It was still better than your average conference, and it was still more available than your average conference. A lot more women this year, a lot more diversity in terms of the booths that they were hosting. So we had this year some booths dedicated to a workplace. Last year workplace was there. It was a little bit more highlighted this year. This year we had booths dedicated to journalists and the journalism projects that they're doing. So you could just see already that the attendees would be much more diverse in thinking. But super buzzy vibe. I mean, when Mark Zuckerberg gets on stage, you had to have been lined up for hours to even get in the room that he was going to be in. I ended up in overflow this year. Last year I lined up for hours. And then, they announced the artist who was going to perform on night one, which was Chance the Rapper. So obviously one of the hottest talents out there, but they didn't announce it until that day.
Yours from that on your true Facebook rather than your workplace. You were pretty happy.
Well, I was happy that I had the opportunity to see Chance the Rapper. I actually didn't go. I am way too tired of a lady these days to go start my day at 8 a.m., go all the way in a really heady conference, and then go to a concert that night. So I left, but I was just really feeling cool that I had even the chance to see Chance the Rapper.
So, we've talked about developer stuff, sort of what's the coolest thing you've seen, what they developed? And, maybe, I don't know if you can talk about this. I think it's pretty public, but, you do spend day in, day out going to the Facebook campus, and it's just a really cool place. I've been there. It's a bit Disneylandish, which is kind of really cool. I love Disneyland. But so, what is it like? And, give us a little bit of a feel of what is it to be there.
So
did I catch you off guard now?
Well, I mean, because we were talking about F8, now you're talking about my life. Funny enough, Facebook is on the Sun Microsystems old campus, and I kind of cut my teeth on Sun Microsystems account when I was coming up as a consultant. So I have spent a lot of my professional life physically on that space in the world. So that's kind of cool. And to have seen, first of all, the development that happened when Facebook came on site, and the big just jump into modern future facing tech from where Sun kind of ended up. And Sun was the bomb at the time that Sun was doing their thing, but it was just this, a very obvious representation of where we were coming from and where we were going to. And, great. I swear to God, it's always sunny there. I think I've been there once when it rained, and of course there's umbrellas everywhere, but it's beautiful weather. A lot of access to the outdoors, and so there's always people milling around sort of inside and outside, and it's a wonderful way to work. Tons of spaces for collaboration, tons of amazing, delicious food everywhere, and with all the expansion into their newer parts of campus. They have buildings that have come online as recently as a month ago. Each one brings its own nice kind of continuation of the culture. A lot of the buildings, well, all of the buildings are sort of left undone to represent that, you know, they are undone in their journey. And so it's very kind of industrial looking and kind of, you know, open spaces. Nobody has telephones. So, you know, I feel like the luckiest girl in the world that I get to spend a lot of my time there, and the team does.
That's awesome. So we got a few more minutes. I'm going to turn it over to you. What's the one thing we haven't talked about today that you want to talk about in regards to F8, Facebook, workplace, any one of those? Just, you know, pick one topic that you'd like to go and talk about.
You know, I think what I'm keeping my eye on is Facebook's identity and, you know, what it will evolve to be, as it naturally will have to, because it's growing so fast. We all know the kind of age-old problem of how you grow and still feel like yourselves and don't turn into something that you never wanted to be. So I'm keeping my eye on that, because along that, in parallel, Facebook's identity, who they are to the market, is shifting. You know, we saw all of that with the elections last fall, with false news, with live stream, with blocking content, unwanted violent content. So this is all driving Facebook's own identity of what they accept that they will be to the world. And so I think it's just going to be a fabulous journey to stay close to and be able to help support.
That's awesome. Hannah, thank you so much. It was great to actually turn this around and just ask you a bunch of questions. Have a great Friday. Thank you for making the time. I know you had a bit of a schedule conflict today, so thank you for still making the time. And with that, this was Coffee with Mr.IoT. If you missed anything, you can watch it again on YouTube, where everything is recorded. Check out our channel. We have all our other old shows there. And we're back next week for the next Coffee with Mr.IoT, and I guess Mrs. IoT. I am wondering if I need to change the name. I feel it's becoming too male-ish now that I've listened to your little talk you gave last week. But in any case, every week, that Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You're nodding, so you're agreeing with me.
Excuse me, it wasn't a little talk that I gave last week. It was a Women in Tech, very powerful talk about the equality that we're seeking in technology. So yes, maybe we should rethink.
Thank you for correcting me. It was a big talk. I listened to all of it. I really enjoyed it. So did you actually publish that publicly, or was it just internal?
I haven't. Some people have asked me to, and I don't know, I'd have to go through some hoops to figure out if I could do that, but it's been well received internally.
I have to tell you, I liked how you combined lots and lots of good facts with some of your own stuff. I really liked it. So thank you for doing this, and thanks for being on the show. Have a good one, everyone. Happy weekend. Bye.
Bye.